My name is Ronerick Medina. I live in Hartford and work at iHealth. I work as a warehouse processor for DSM iHealth, and I'm a member of Teamsters Local 671. Thank you for the chance to testify in support of SB 8, HB 6904, and HB 6907. We had to go on strike on December 2nd, 2024, and are still on strike to this day. My decision to go on strike in my eyes was easy to make, seeing that the company was stalling in negotiations. The negotiations that did happen had little movement or input from the company as they were trying to brush it aside. While this was occurring, the company had been forcing 72-hour work weeks, and if we could not do it, we would get reprimanded. I have been outside in the freezing cold every day to show the company we are not going away. This is the first time I've been on strike and the first time being a part of a union. I am grateful to be part of it. I can keep on fighting for better working conditions because of the strike fund, but understand that not every union has a strike fund. This bill would undoubtedly help workers who are put in a position where the company keeps stalling and they need to choose between working in terrible conditions or continuing to provide for their family at the cost of their well-being. This is why I felt I had to testify in favor of this bill. In addition, we need warehouse workers' protections to ensure that companies cannot act like iHealth, has been imposing harmful production quotas and puts workers at risk of injury. Thank you again, senators and representatives. Questions or next?
Okay. Good afternoon, senators and representatives of the Labor Public Employees Committee. My name is Justin Donahue. I live in East Windsor, and I worked at iHealth. I work as a warehouse processor for DSM iHealth and a member of Teamsters Local 671. Thank you for the chance to testify in support of SB 8, HB 6904, and HB 6907. Going on strike is never easy, as the companies have all the power when it comes to stalling and even potentially waiting out the striking workers. The majority of strikes that occur are unfair labor practice strikes due to the company breaking labor laws and creating unsafe and toxic work environments. When we choose to go on strike, it had been after the company had been stalling for 9 months in negotiations and had been committing numerous unfair labor practices. Instead of hiring enough workers, the company chose to force excess overtime every week and forced everyone to come in and work on Memorial Day, which was previously accepted holiday. While being forced to work excessive overtime, I injured my shoulder, and with all the excessive hours, I have had little time to spend with my family, especially my son, who is about to turn 4 years old. While on strike, we were not sitting at home twiddling our thumbs, but rather we were out, no matter the weather conditions, to demonstrate our strength and solidarity as a union. With the strike fund from our international union, I was able to continue to provide for my family despite these hard times. However, not every union has a strike fund. This bill will help other workers who do not have access to a strike fund be able to continue financially while waiting for the company to come back to the table. In addition, we need warehouse worker protections to ensure that companies cannot act like iHealth by imposing harmful production quotas that puts workers at risk of injury. Thank you.
Good afternoon, senators and representatives of the Labor and Public Employees Committee. My name is Lawrence Sanchez. I live in New Britain and worked as a senior quality assurance technician for iHealth that is represented by Teamsters Local 671. I thank you for this opportunity to speak out in support of SB 8, HB 6904, and HB 6907. When workers choose to go on strike, it is never an easy choice to make. It is in response to companies' bad faith bargaining, unsafe working conditions, such as what we faced at iHealth. When our group voted to go on this strike, the company had been stalling for 9 months, changed the working conditions, and enforced mandatory overtime. This is all in retaliation to our unionization efforts. the unfair labor practices we had on them, they withheld raises that they were normally supposed to give. As soon as we won the election, they forced the mandatory overtime from 10 hours every week to 10, 12 hours every week, including Saturdays. They took away Memorial Day, which was normally an accepted holiday written in by the company that they previously accepted, and told everyone to come into work last minute, the day before, that you need to come in. So people could not change their plans, and they were just told, well, if you don't come in, you get an occurrence. You get enough occurrences, they fire you. So this is what we were dealing with while we were deciding to go on strike. Then we went on strike on December 2nd with all this in mind, hoping that the company would actually take it seriously, come to the table, and bargain in good faith. My hope is that this bill will help all warehouse workers across the state, regardless if they are in union or not, by helping curb these harsh production quotas. Again, at iHealth, the quotas would change almost daily, where you can be forced to have to stay in overtime because now the number that they wanted to meet went from 20 million to 32 million. You need to make it 32 million this month. And they would then have you come in and stay mandatory overtime last minute. They'll tell you right on Friday, oh, by the way, we didn't make the number. You need to come in Saturday now. So they force you to change your plans. You can't plan to be with your family. You can't plan to go grocery shopping, to go and do the daily life necessities when you're working 12 hours Monday through Saturday. There's no time to have a life when you're doing that. So these are all, or why we need for the warehouse protections, to at least know upfront, hey, if you're going to be working us like a sweatshop, maybe I don't want that job. But that was never conveyed when we applied to this. This bill will hope clarify that and put in safeguards that will help us and all warehouse workers in Connecticut. And again, I would like to thank the distinguished members of this committee, and if there are any questions, I'd be more than willing to take them.
During that organizing campaign, did you face a lot of opposition from the employer?
Yes. While we were organizing, there was a very harsh anti-union campaign from the company. They came in, and again, of this warehouse bill also about safety, where during the unionizing campaign, they were like, oh, you don't need the union. You guys want better forklifts, because right now we have aging old forklifts that haven't been replaced in years. Where one of them was even leaking hydraulic fluid, and they came into the forced captive audience meeting. We're like, oh, don't worry, we're gonna spend $250,000 getting you new equipment. It's gonna be great. Yeah, you don't need to unionize. We hear you. You have a voice. Then we won the election. Where are those forklifts? They said they were already going to spend money on it. They didn't do it. And to this day, they haven't replaced them. They were also threatening that, they were hinting that they would close the warehouse, saying, the DSM has other warehouses in other states. I don't know what'll happen. Essentially saying that, hey, if you unionize, we're going to fire you. So there was a very harsh campaign, and we still pulled through together and unionized because we wanted a better working environment at this company where we've been working for many years.
So can you describe a little bit about the emotional toll it takes on you as workers? And any one of you can respond.
I can start and then you can respond to that. It's always hard to go on strike, and being out there is not fun and games. We've been out there every day, rain, shine, hail, sleet or snow, in the cold December weather. Since December all the way till now, we're still out there to this day. So when you're seeing it's raining and snowing outside, we're out there walking the picket line. It's not a game, it's not a joke. It's us fighting for our rights. And then people saying just, oh, you could hope, why couldn't you just find another job? Well, we have our retirements to think about. We want to work here with a good union contract where we're not treated as expendable that you can just replace every day.
Would any of the rest of you want to comment?
So to comment on your question, about like the effects on our individual lives. Well, working 10, 12-hour days, moving packages all day, it takes a physical toll on your body, like with my injury. I ended up straining my shoulder just from all the excessive overtime, and my hand and my arm started turning like black and blue and losing circulation as well. And then on top of all of the overtime, that doesn't leave you any time to grocery shop, take care and raise your kids. Because all you're doing is eat, sleeping, and working. So, and the company just gives you a choice of whether or not to, if you either provide for your kid or you don't work. And then they also, so I worked on second shift in this company. So I work from 12 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. And they force people to come in Saturday and work on first shift. So I don't get home until like 9:30 p.m. and then they want us to be in at work at 5 in the morning. So I get less than 6 hours of sleep and anywhere between 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And we talked to them about it, but they didn't give us any option. They just didn't open up another shift on Saturday. They just said, nope, you got to work then.
So we've heard from, and you did mention a little bit in your, and I'm sorry, I should know each of your names, but I think, who's Lawrence? Lawrence?
Lawrence,
Yeah.
yes.
Lawrence, you mentioned that you have retirement and you've been there a number of years. Because that question keeps coming up. Why don't you just go get another job?
Well, the retirement benefits vary from job to job, and it's not always that you can keep what you're getting, right? You might have it that 401k now that goes from 4% to only 2%. So that puts it at jeopardy. Where now, if you're about to be vested in the company, where the company says after 3 years you're fully vested and it will meet you at X amount more, and then you want to keep staying in that company because it has a good offer, but then you're like, oh, find another job somewhere else. If they don't have that similar offer, or they won't accept a transfer of your 401k, or all these other issues. Again, maybe the healthcare is better here, but then you go to the other company, if you're saying you can find one, then the healthcare is not as good. The idea is not just pick up and give up, find another job. It's we as workers want to come together, have a reasonable, fair contract that ensures good working conditions, and basically keep working there without having to basically be forced to work in an unsafe environment.
Kushner touched on retirement. When you went out on strike, did you lose the healthcare benefits and other benefits within the company? Did they fire many of the employees? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So we've lost our healthcare since it's been over a month. Retirements, if some of us were already vested in it, but the majority of us didn't have that 3-year met. So one of our members was 2 months away from doing so. So they're not going to get vested in that 401k. And then again, staying true to their not care and disregard for any laws, they, on the second day of the strike, on a UOP strike, not an economic, we have multiple filed unfair labor practices against them. They fired everyone on the second day of the strike that was out there striking via text message. Again, this is a protected strike. They chose to do it anyway, assuming that they can just stall it down and hope we'd give up. And again, they fired people saying that, oh, it was a voluntary resignation, which it wasn't. And they sent that message to people that were on second shift who were striking with us, who didn't even start that day. They also sent it to one of the people that was on PTO the first day, which is why he wasn't there, and then joined us the second day on Tuesday. And they said, oh, you were not here 2 days in a row, which they approved for him to not be there on Monday. But they just didn't care. They retaliated against their workforce. And I guess they're hoping that with the NLRB being crippled, that they can keep kicking it down the road and that we would either give up or that there would be no ruling.
And through you, Madam Chair, I have one last question. Since being out on strike, you guys, have you made any progress in negotiations?
Not really, no. Basically, the last negotiation day was yesterday, and the company lawyers met in person, but they're basically wanting to kick it down the road. We have an injunction on them, which is basically when, due to these circumstances where they illegally fired everyone, we can rush it through, and we're very confident in that, but there's no quorum of the board. So that injunction basically skips over the local region, try to get a speedier resolution to this. And that's no longer an option. There's no quorum, so they can't resolve it. They can't meet on that. So now we have to wait for the local NLRB to hear our case, and they were getting affidavits for that, and they are moving the process, but that can take upwards from like 8 months to a couple of years, depending on how slow the local region is going to work. So the company is probably hoping, oh, Let's keep waiting them out. It's been 2 months now. Now it's gonna be 3 months. Let's see if they keep staying out there, and we'll just outwait them. That's their plan.
Really appreciates the work that you guys are doing to bring light to the issues that you have at your job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Cabrera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, thank you all of you for being here and for sharing your experience with us. And I'm really sorry that this has happened to you, and I hope that your families and yourselves can recover and recuperate and be able to, live good lives. I was wondering if you could take us inside how this quota system worked for you. Take us right there next to you. Who's speaking to you? How are these quotas communicated to you, and how are they changed? That's something I think would be good for this committee to understand how that happens.
So I can speak to more so on the quality side of it. So a little background for our warehouse. This is stuff that's coming in. It's under FDA quarantine. It's stuff you eat. It's consumables. It's probiotics and medication as well. So for me, whenever something comes in and it's really hot, they're already rushing me. Get it released now. Get it released as soon as possible. Go out there and do it fast, faster, faster. And they're trying to rush me through my process to get it released as soon as possible. Then when the product is released, it goes to the warehouse and they're rushing them to do it as well. And every month they have a monthly quota that they have to reach that they change at the drop of a hat. So it can go from 26 million and then all of a sudden they have a large Amazon order and now it goes to 46 million. They're literally in the same day. And now that due to that change, they tell everyone last minute, now you need to stay mandatory overtime. You can't have a weekend now. And it's just out of the blue. There's no predicting it. And the answer to this problem would be to hire more people at full time instead of just working the little workforce they have to death. It makes more sense economically instead of doing this forced mandatory overtime of 12 hours every day to just hire more full-time employees so you can meet those quotas. But they just weren't doing that, in part as a retaliation for us, because normally they would have had 12 temps during peak seasons because that's what they normally did. But now for us, they only had 5 temps. So
Right.
they were intentionally doing that to make the working conditions and the environment there miserable.
So through you, Madam Chair, just one more question. So just you take me through this. I just want to be next to you, right? Just pretend I'm next to you.
Mhm.
You show up to work, you're communicated by your manager, either verbally or through a loudspeaker, I would assume. This is the number we have to hit today. During the course of your shift, at some point, pick one, right? After lunch, during a break, you're then recommunicated the same day saying that quota is now increased and you have to hit this number. My understanding, that's how we're correctly how it happens?
Can you speak to that?
Or it's more monthly. It goes like a monthly number, and then
Okay.
so let's say it's a regular day. We're going to work.
Yep.
I'm thinking, yeah, Saturday. I'm about to do this, whatever. We're leaving at this time Friday.
Yep.
No, then they're like, hey, meeting. It's Monday. We have a meeting. The rest of the week, mandatory overtime. Saturday right now, it's a maybe, but by Friday it was mandatory, and it was just you never knew when. I seen someone get reprimanded. He threw a housewarming party, invited all the managers and everyone, and had that day off months ahead of time. Then when we got busy that day, we had to work, and he got reprimanded for having that housewarming party that the managers were invited to as well.
Gotcha.
So they knew it ahead of time. But
Okay.
still.
Thank you.
Curtains.